Good morning or good afternoon, 7th grade. We are going to jump into lesson 8 today. We have got a jam-packed lesson, so let's go ahead and get started. So today you're going to collaborate with peers. You're going to analyze interactions among different elements of the text. Before we do that, we're going to start with an entrance ticket. Again, this might not be on page 39 and 40 of your workbook, but please find the entrance ticket that says Unit 1, Lesson 8. So we have two questions. Question 1 has part A and part B. Even though the page number is a little bit different, the same sentence still applies. So read the following sentence. While Whitehead walked the streets, Snow spent hours every night in his study poring over the data they'd collected. Part A, what is the meaning of the phrase poring over as it appears in that sentence? What does this phrase convey about Snow? So that's all question 1. Number 2, you've got a different sentence. Day after day, he paced the streets, knocking on doors, trying to track down residents who had fled the neighborhood in the early days of the outbreak. What does the phrase day after day help to convey about Whitehead's personality? So please go ahead and pause the video now and work to answer those. When you finish, turn and talk with an elbow partner, and then we'll come back together and we'll work through this together. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and look at our entrance ticket answers for today. So number 1, poring over, part A, you should have said D, studying, poring over the data they'd collected. Spending so much time with it, going over it and over it and over it again, right? That's what should have came to your mind. Part B, what does this phrase convey about Snow? Convey also means show. What does this show us about him as a person? You should have said C, he was deliberate and careful. And then number 2, what does the phrase day after day help to convey or show about Whitehead's personality? You should have said B, his consistent energy for his work. We have 3 learning targets today. I can analyze the impact of a specific word choice on meaning and tone. I can identify key individuals, events, and ideas in a text. And I can analyze how individuals, events, and ideas interact with one another. Before we move forward and start reading, I have 3 words I'd like for you to add to your vocabulary log: impact, interact, and tone. So please go ahead and add these now. Pause the video, and then we'll come back together and I'll tell you what needs to be read today. All right, guys, so today you are reading pages 40 through 45, 47, and 49. So please go ahead and do that now. Pause the video. All right, guys, so now that you've read all those, let me change this. So you read 40 through 45, you read 47 and 49. Please go ahead, pause the video, and capture a gist for this section on your gist logs. All right, guys, if you've not had a chance to talk about that gist as a class, pause the video again and do that, and then come back together and I'll share with you the gist that I have. All right, guys, so in this particular portion, Snow and Whitehead investigated cholera and found the cause. Big breakthrough, right? All right, guys, so in the lesson for today, it did call for a mini language dive, but for the sake of time and in order to get through the meatier chunks of this, I'm going to move us forward and go through this portion with you. If Miss Mitchell wants you guys to, your teacher can go through the mini language dive with you, but I'm going to go through this portion because I feel like it's huge and it's big and we need to talk about it today. And I want to make sure we get through it. So looking at this second, well, actually looking at both of them, I want you guys to have a discussion as a class. What do you think these 2 learning targets mean? Pick it apart, talk about it together, and then we'll come back together and we'll move forward into our next section. All right, guys, so hopefully you had some time to look at these key individuals, events, ideas, talk about what that means. And now we're going to start making some sense of it. So I want you guys to talk about these 2 questions, first with an elbow partner and then as a class. Can you think of examples where an event or idea influenced an individual in history or in your own life? This should be easy for you guys to do. You guys have got lots of individuals you learn about through history. that an event or an idea has influenced them. Second question, can you think of examples where individuals influenced events or changed people's understanding of common ideas? All right, guys, so now that you've done that, all these things are connected, right? Like, what do you see when you look at this image? Pause the video, talk about it with an elbow partner. What is this image trying to convey to you? All right, guys, so you should have said that individuals, events, and ideas, they all work together. They're all going to work together, okay? So how do individuals and events and ideas interact? So we got to understand not just what happened, but why it happened the way it did. So we got to look closely at the facts to make sense of the story. So you guys actually have a note catcher. It's going to, at the top, it's going to say Solve Patient Zero, Chapter 2 Note Catcher. So you're going to use this note catcher to keep track of reading done in preparation for an end of unit text-based discussion. So you guys know that that text-based discussion is coming at the end of this unit. You're going to be talking about the following prompt. How do the events and key individuals in this excerpt interact to change our ideas about disease? So as you fill out the flow chart, consider how do the events and ideas surrounding epidemics affect the individual? How does the individual affect the events and ideas? So you guys are going to work through this today. Everything you've read, right? Ideas about disease before the cholera epidemic, scientific ideas and social ideas. Let's go ahead and pause the video and just work on that portion now. Remember, key thing, ideas about disease before the cholera epidemic. So please go ahead and work to do that now. All right, guys. So now that you have had an opportunity to work through that first portion, I'm going to go up and pull actually my teacher copy. And we're going to talk, I'm going to share just a few things with you, right? In lesson 8, you should have written miasma causes disease to spread. It means bad air. Okay, that's a scientific idea, right? Before the cholera epidemic. Social. Sanitation or cleanliness wasn't paid attention to. London was a city of filth. We covered that in depth in our reading, okay? So now we're going to move on to the second portion of the note catcher. Major events of the cholera epidemic. That should be easy for you guys to come up with and go back through your text and look for. And then you're going to fill in the right side, actions of key individuals. So patient 0, what were their habits of character? What did they do? Did they persevere? Were they confident? Were they helpful? Were they empathetic to the people around them that were suffering for that? So that's the kind of thing, suffering from the cholera epidemic. Those are the kind of things we want to look for. And then who were the investigators? So guys, go ahead now and work to fill this in and complete this, okay? Go back through your text. I'm not going to go over this with you. I want you to maybe work with a partner. I want you guys to really pour into the text, pull it apart, and pull out some textual evidence here. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video and let's work to answer this now. All right, guys, so now that you've had some time to do this, I'm going to ask that we have this discussion here as a class. So consider how the author's descriptions of Snow and Whitehead help define their character and show their actions. So talk about how you knew, based on what you were reading, the type of people that Snow and Whitehead were. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video and do that now. Okay, guys, so you've got a couple more things to do today. So the last thing that you need to do is ideas about disease after the cholera epidemic. So now we know now that Whitehead and Snow solved it. They investigated it, they solved it. So after that, then what were our ideas scientifically and socially? Okay. And then fill in questions about the epidemic. So what questions might you still have based on where we have read up to at this point? So go ahead and work to fill those in now. All right, guys, I want you guys to talk about the ideas that you filled in. So you can go ahead and pause the video and do that now, and then come back to me, and I'm going to give you some questions, some sample questions that you might still have. All right, guys, so these are some questions that you might still have. How did John Snow test the water? Was it common for people to throw out their waste near wells? And what other beliefs about disease did people have at the time? Those are great questions. Those are great stemming questions that you might still have. Okay, so I told you earlier, we're working toward a discussion, right? That's going to be our big piece at the end. So here is our discussion norms anchor chart. You guys have seen this before. This is what's expected when a discussion is taking place. You listen carefully and you wait for your turn. You do not interrupt. You ask questions to better understand what people are saying. Can you explain that more? You make comments that contribute to the discussion. You respond to questions to help people better understand what you're saying and to build on the discussion. You stay on topic and you link ideas to those of others. So you might say, I have something I'd like to add to that. And you speak in complete sentences and you assume positive intent. We always want this to be positive. So I want you guys to have a little bit of discussion about this phrase. Acknowledge new information expressed by others, and when warranted, modify their views. So what does this standard mean in your own words? What words and phrases can you use to acknowledge new information expressed by others and to modify your own views? So go ahead and pause the video and have a little bit of discussion as a class about this phrase now. I just want to remind you, when we're in a discussion, these are some of the sentence starters that we can use. Can you tell me more? That lets people know you want them to expand on your thoughts. You might also say, I never thought about it that way, the way he did. I used to think, or now I think. Okay. All right. So let's have I want you guys to just do a little bit of practice discussion with these 3 questions. So I'm going to sign off. You can pause the video here so that you've got these 3 questions. I want you guys just to do just mini little discussion in class, nothing formal, but let's just practice talking to each other and getting some of our thoughts and ideas out. So go ahead and pause the video with these 3 questions on here. I'm going to go ahead and sign out, and I'll see you guys again very soon.